Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Is welcome you once again this evening to the airwaves of Salam Media. I know we're running a few minutes late. There were a few technical issues that needed to be sorted out. And especially when we have a panel discussion, we need to make absolutely sure that all our panelists are audible and obviously with the visuals coming through as we welcome our listeners, our viewers at Salam Media this evening on Wednesday nights. It is with myself, eThekweni, and we are about a week away from the month of Ramadan. A lot of preparation is taking place in more ways than one, spiritually, the dietary needs of people, and also at the same time looking at the various charities that we contribute to, taking care of those who are less privileged than us, those that are suffering in more ways than one. So, with all the preparation that is taking place, an added dimension to the preparation that we need to take, especially for us here in South Africa. And sadly, we are in a crime-ridden, in a crime-infested country where even places of worship are not safe. And recently, we've heard of a few incidents that have taken place where the mosques have been invaded by criminals. And with the month of Ramadan coming up, the central focus area is going to be the mosque, and particularly looking at mosque throughout the entire day and also at nights with the Tarawih Salah, because this is where the mosques are full to capacity, but also looking at communities and the women who are at home, and also looking at community safety. And this is the focus with a week to go for the month of Ramadan, to look at the safety of our mosques, to look at the safety of the worshippers, and also the community at large, the women and the children at home. And this is the reason why we are having this discussion tonight. We are joined by our panelists this evening. We've got Khalil Mohamed, who is with the Lenasia CPF, the PRO. We've got Khalid Dennis with SA Rangers. We've got Imtiaz Sayed, eThekweni Secure, who will be joining us shortly as well. And also looking at Vision Tactical this evening, we will be joined by, and I see it up on screen, I see the logo. We've got Mohammed Abin Dabelia, who is with us. And right on top of the screen, I am looking at from SA Rangers. We are looking at Khalid Dennis. Khalid, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yes, and also from we've got Khalil Mohamed, Lenasia, PRO, CPF. Khalil, assalamu alaikum to you.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
You know, we've got Khalid and Khalil, so I need to make sure that we don't get confused this evening. And I see Mohammed Amin Dabelia has joined us as well. Mohammed Amin, assalamu alaikum to you and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother Inayat. Jazakallah for having us on air.
Yes, wonderful that all of you are able to join us. Now, Khalil, obviously, I'd like to start off with you. And we are a week away from the month of Ramadan. I mentioned in my introduction preparations in more ways than one that is taking place in our homes as communities, but also taking a look at an added dimension to our preparations, which is safety and of the community, the safety of the worshippers, the Muslims that go to mosque. And I'm sure this is one of the priorities from a CPF perspective right now as we speak.
Gee, that is correct. So what we've done already, we've had a few meetings already. Just our most recent meeting was last night. So a group of commanders got together and discussed our plan going forward for the month of Ramadan. So what we do on the month of Ramadan is, so we have a lot of patrollers. We've got plus minus about 500 patrollers in total. There's a mix between the Muslim as well as non-Muslim. And what happens in Ramadan is a lot of the non-Muslim patrollers are the ones that assist us during Tarawih time. So they will split up and basically man the different areas where the different masjids are, be it outside the masjid, be it like now we've got gated. Majority of the areas now in Lens are sort of what you call gated areas now. So we will have them stationed at the gated areas as well. Communication will be via what we have at the CPF. We've got a two-way radio system. Together with that, we'll have our WhatsApp groups and constantly communicating with, a lot of guys that are actually at the masjids as well. They always keep a tab on their phones, with regards to what's going on at home, because, we're at the time where the females are very vulnerable being at home alone. So a lot of guys do keep into contact with family during Taraweeh as well. So whenever we get any information, we would then share it across the WhatsApp groups as well as the two-way radio systems.
Yes, obviously, Khalil, it's very, very important. And looking at from a CPF perspective, it's not only, I would say, yourselves in Lenasia, but I'm sure many CPF members who are listening to us right now will be taking note. And I know in Benoni tonight, there is a meeting that is taking place where all the Benoni CPFs and those that are supporting the security initiative will be getting together to plan for the eastern area. But Khalid, just coming to you as the director of SA Rangers as well, and CPFs and security companies need to complement each other, particularly at a time like this. And I'm sure that you do it all the time, but at a time like this, it is a crucial time. People are in a different mode, for want of a better term, in the spiritual mode. It is the month of Ramadan. It comes once a year, and people want to enjoy a relatively peaceful and a safe Ramadan.
Yeah, correct. We happen to be in a very fortunate position where we work closely with our neighborhood watch and our CPFs here. And in the past, many of our guys have put in extra hours and have been patrolling, and that together with other security companies, not only us. And what we do is we stand off at a couple of the mosques, and to try and keep the worshippers safe. We also have a very good structure as far as our neighborhood watch goes. Our neighborhood watch guys have traditionally been they've been very active. I think lately they've just been a little bit lazy. So we'd like to encourage those guys to, come out and do their bit again as they did before. And Alhamdulillah, we haven't had too many incidents in our immediate area. Just keeping in mind that we only do the south. The immediate south area here. So our plan, in fact, there's a meeting happening right now as I speak. I was invited to another meeting now where the guys are planning some of the strategies and things that are going to happen moving forward.
Well, thank you for that, Khalid. And also just to bring Mohammed Dabelia into the discussion. Mohammed as Khalid speaks about strategies and planning, and that planning at a time like this is absolutely crucial.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think, in terms of planning, strategy, things like that, it's about preparing your team for what to expect if anything does occur. And I think with protests and things like that happening, in the near future, obviously on Monday, we know that there's a planned national shutdown. There's no guarantee that mosques would not be spared. So we obviously have to, alert all the teams on the ground, give them a proper briefing on what to expect. We experienced, in the past, I think in 2019, I remember there was a masjid on Nugget Street that was attacked by protesters. I remember they petrol bombed the entrance of the masjid. We had teams on the ground who then obviously, swiftly responded to the scene. And then worked together with emergency services. They then put out, that fire together with other security companies in the area. So yeah, it's just about obviously, preparing, planning, assessing the levels of risks for various buildings, in terms of, with Ramadan obviously approaching, congregations would obviously get larger. There's more vehicles at the masjid parking lots, things like that. It's about preparing your teams for what can happen. And obviously also for the musallis to report threats that they do come around or experience, get in touch with the local police stations, obviously with the local CPFs, private security companies, things like that, just so that everyone's in the loop and we have a fully collaborative effort to protect our masjids ultimately at the end of the day.
Well, definitely, Mohammed Amin, and also bringing Khalil back into the discussion. And from what both Khalid and Mohammed Amin have said, Khalil, looking at communities and as a CPF, yes, you are preparing yourself as a security companies. We heard from both SA Rangers and Vision Tactical in terms of strategies, but also looking at communities, the level of engagement with communities, and we've heard about the increase in musallis. Definitely there are going to be a lot more people at the mosque. The level of engagement with the community is absolutely important, so that they are informed, and also at the same time they need to prepare themselves as well, Khalil.
Yeah, no, most definitely they need to be prepared. We are sending out messages to the community groups and that, to keep them informed as to what the plan is. Like I mentioned, it's not only the CPF that's involved. I mean, private security companies are involved as well, together with SEPs. So regularly, SEPs will be joining as well throughout the patrols, throughout every night. But yeah, we're just telling them to, telling residents to be vigilant, be aware of what's going on around, in the surroundings. And, just trying to educate them to say, okay, make sure you keep your gates locked, during that time. Don't, just discuss, basically keep your emergency numbers on hand should the need arise as well. So yeah, I mean, we've got lots of WhatsApp groups, you're out in Lenasia, and messages do flow almost immediately across to all the groups, so we can respond quite quickly.
Yes, and also Khalid, with the crime levels in South Africa, generally, the good thing is people have become a lot more aware of what is happening, and I think they're a lot more vigilant. But also sometimes we take our eye off the ball, and at a time like this, one cannot afford to actually, lose sight of what is actually happening around us. And I'm sure there's a lot of advice, and with your experience, as SA Rangers, there's a lot that you've experienced over a period of time. And yeah, I'd like to also talk about not only the mosques, but I want to talk about communities at large, communities in general. Men will be gone to the mosque, the women will be at home. I think Khalil alluded to that. Women are vulnerable, children are vulnerable. So this is going to take an all-round effort.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree with what Khalil was saying. And just to add to what he has mentioned, people, it doesn't change because, it's now an auspicious occasion, etc. The crime is still there. So what happens is when you're going to up the risk factor by moving around early hours of the morning. Sometimes people are leaving their homes before sunrise. They're coming home after sunset, so they've upped their risk factor. So ideally, people, it's not always possible, but ideally, people should not move around alone. I'm sorry to say, but we live in the Wild West. That's a reality of what's happening out there. The crime is not getting any less. So we need to just make ourselves more alert. You need to we need to up our game as far as security companies go, as far as CPFs and neighborhood watchers, and as far as worshippers and people just moving around. We need to be more aware that the criminal element, they do that for a living. That's what they do for a job. So they drive around and they look for opportunities. If you're going to walk around in the street with on your way to mosque, you're going to walk with your cell phone in your hand and that type of thing, you're going to make yourself a target. If you're going to leave your house before sunrise, make sure you look around. If you see a suspicious vehicle, just move to a safe area, call somebody, and alert them, that type of thing. You've got to be extra vigilant. And as much as we can do patrols all night. But it's just that one time when we're nowhere near you, where the CPF is nowhere near you, where the police are nowhere near you, that's when the criminal is going to take the opportunity. So we just need to be extra vigilant. I know that's something you hear all the time. I heard somebody on one of the groups, they were scoffing at the notion of being more vigilant. They're saying, why should we be more vigilant? And I'm telling you now, if you're more vigilant, you don't become a statistic. If you're more vigilant, you can take action quicker. You can read the situation and you can deal with it quickly, and you can minimize your risk, etc. That's why South Africans, that's why we survive overseas, because when you get people from foreign countries come here, they're not used to this. They're not used to what we see every day, and then they become targets. So just my opinion is, over and above everything else, all your security measurements, your security company, the police, everything, just be more vigilant. Let your family know where you are. Send your wife a message saying, I'm leaving home. I'm going to the mosque. I'm leaving the mosque. I'm coming home. So everybody, if anything happens to you during that, during your travels, at least somebody knows where to start looking for you. Because you might not always be in a fortunate situation that the crime happens in front of a camera. So just keep those things in mind when traveling, etc.
Yes, Jazakallah, shukran for that, Khalid. And I see Imtiaz Sayed, eThekweni Secure, has just joined us. I think Imtiaz is in the car. But Imtiaz, assalamu alaikum and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah for having me.
Yes, Imtiaz, I'm not too sure how much of the discussion you have caught this evening, but you and I have this discussion week in and week out with eThekweni Secure. Last week we touched briefly on preparedness for the month of Ramadan, and just looking at it from your side, just your thoughts and your views on preparedness, because the month of Ramadan is just about a week away.
I think for us it comes down to assessing this in twofold. The first part is we've seen quite a significant issue around attacks in Masajid and around Masajid that's been occurring. And the other one, historically, we've noticed and have known that generally when the men are at the Masajid, the females are home alone. And when this happens and things happen in those homes, remember, the men are in the Masajid with their phones on silent or off, and you really can't get a hold of them. And only to get to know after the Salah that something has actually occurred in your home. What have we done in terms of that? Firstly, in terms of the females at home, we've created, obviously we run a women's forum as well, who mainly our controllers are females. We've started a Zello channel, which is basically female only. It's basically a Parda Zello channel, which is manned by females only. There are no men allowed on that channel. And that gives the ladies at home a sense of security, none to be matched, if you know what I mean. Because there's someone real time on the other side of a two-way radio, which is on your phone in an app, that can assist you or send out services to assist you. Now, these controllers are part of our bigger scheme where we have something called the Ramadan Secure Program, where our Community in Blue members or our Neighborhood Watch members have their designated masajid that they look after and stand outside of. We then now pass on this information through our channels to go and respond to incidents that either happen at home. And then when we have these men that are outside the masajid, obviously they're vigilant. But something that has happened over the past 3 years where we've taken advantage of the fact that there are youth that generally, as a norm, stand outside the masajid. We've now spoken to them over the past 2 or 3 years to say that, can you assist us and do something proactive, because we know that you're not going to be reading Taraweeh. So whilst you're standing outside, can you perform this function? And they have now come on board and have become very vigilant in terms of providing safety and security around the masjid. The only challenge we have is generally in the mornings for Fajr Salah, where obviously there's not so many members that go to the masjid and all of that. We then mobilized our Community in Blue members to do regular patrols in and around the masjid. We've then spoken to security companies about picking up their patrols. We've spoken to SAPS in terms of their deployments. Remember, there's always the issue of shift change, where it's 6 to 6. So generally from 5:30 all the way right up till 7 o'clock, you have no SAPS on the road. We've asked them for redeployments, changing their shift times in terms of crime prevention, which they're always willing to assist us with. So those are the contingencies we've put in place. These are the things we've done in the past. There are some new things that we are doing now in terms of businesses and how they act with us. So all of that's happening at the moment. I'm currently coming from a business meeting, a business forum meeting, where we've mobilized all the businesses in terms of the 20th of March. So yes, that's what's going on.
Well, Jazakallah for that, Imtiaz, and Mohammed Amin, to bring you back here into the discussion. Now, there's a fair amount that's already been unpacked, and the point that Imtiaz has made is, he mentioned Fajr time, because this is when very few people or lesser people go, but it is also a time, and one cannot underestimate these criminals, because they, as much as we strategize, as much as we plan, they plan as well. And the key issue is to counter and to minimize any risk at any point or at any given time.
100%. I think obviously your most vulnerable times will be Fajr and obviously Isha late into the Taraweeh prayers. But obviously that's when we implement a secure operational plan where we then alert all our supervisors who are in vehicles, obviously to make more additional visits rather to the masjids in the area. And then we also have them brief the security guards, which we then have on site at various masajids, to obviously be on the lookout for certain suspicious acts which they can experience during the evenings between Isha and Fajr. It's being extra vigilant and just looking out for what you might miss on a regular day, especially now with the month of Ramadan. Car hijackings, theft of vehicles, things like that would spike if we don't put in proper measures. But we can only obviously educate and obviously make people more aware of their or to be aware of their surroundings. For masjids to implement various security measures also, it's very important, installing an alarm system, things like that if it's within their budget, obviously. And then obviously also CCTV cameras, which they can also implement to just increase that security barrier. Obviously, we believe in a proactive approach to everything, especially with security. It's with security guards being actively, involved with, just protecting assets and the site. Being in constant touch with supervisors who are moving between site to site, and also which is like a command center, which would act as our control room. To get in touch with the security guards to make sure everything on site is in order. Every hour, with guards checking in and things like that. So yeah, it's a proactive approach to fighting crime, because we need to make criminals feel uncomfortable. We don't want to give them an environment where they can operate freely. So we need to obviously put measures in place, and then just take it step by step, working together with law enforcement. It's very important. So it's just a proactive approach that we would encourage, obviously, our musallis also to become part of reporting suspicious things, as I mentioned earlier.
Yes, Jazakallah for that. And Khalil, bringing you back into the discussion. And, Mohammed Amin has been speaking about alarm systems, about security cameras, CCTV. Those are definitely helpful. But also looking at many of our mosques in terms, especially at a time when the mosques are full, when people are so engrossed in their salah, when they're reciting salah, but just to, to try and make it as difficult as possible for criminals to get into the mosque. I'm talking of, easy access, getting in easy, getting out easy. Should that not be a consideration?
Yeah, no consideration. I do know that in some masajids in Lenasia, sometimes they actually close the gates. So once you're in the masjid, you're in the masjid. There's no one able to enter. There's no one able to exit. But that's not the case in all the masjids. All right. The proactive approach there is basically to get the either security vehicle or patrol vehicle with strobes parked outside the masjid with a few members, in the area that's actually keeping an eye out to see what's happening around the masjid. Like I said, also the thing is now the difference this year would be that a lot of our areas are sort of gated. So there's not so much of easy access into the area, so you won't be having that free movement of traffic like we used to have before when there were no gates. So now where there's gates, we've got gates that are manned, we've got gates that are unmanned. All right. So unmanned gates are generally closed. Only the manned gates they've got a security that opens and closes. So we're hoping that this year we'll have, there shouldn't be. Well, let's put it this way. We're hoping that there's going to be lesser incidents, if any. All right. Yeah. So I think it's just vigilance. I think that's what will deter the criminals to come to these masajids.
Well, Jazakallah for that. And also, Khalid, also one of the most important issues is to be alert. As much as the communities need to be alert, we need to be alert in and around our surroundings, our homes, our mosques, our masajids, but also, looking at it from your perspective as SA Rangers, in terms of, that level of alertness when somebody reports, an incident or something has happened, your control rooms, the responsiveness as well. Absolutely important, absolutely crucial.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think people must also, those people that are not on a community crime group should make sure they get onto, their local community crime group. Also, people take your alarm systems for granted. There's a lot of technology out there that can assist you as well. Whereas if the husband leaves the house, he can still arm the house, and when the the wife and the kids are still in the house, that type of technology is available. I'm not marketing myself, but we happen to have a type of alarm system where the guy from his remote can actually see whether the alarm's on or off when he comes back. So there's no reason for him to switch off the alarm, in order to leave his family vulnerable, that type of thing. There's also, what people don't know is that your actual cell phone. I mean, your cell phone has got a lot of nice safety features, and one of them is the follow me on Google Maps. You can send your wife a message to give her your location for the next hour. So if anything happens to you, she can go onto that and she can see, he's walking home from the mosque. He's here, corner Frank and Delamere Road. And then if they don't hear from you in the next half an hour, they know where to go start looking for you. So that's another little feature that people can explore, which is on most cell phones anyway. I know what phone do I have? I don't even remember but my phone in particular has got a feature that's got a panic button. It's got a panic button that you can set up on your phone, where if you press a button 3 times, it sends a message to 5 of your contacts with your location. So if anything happens to you, you push the button 3 times, even if they take your phone, it's fine. It'll send the last location to that there where you were in trouble. And then people can come start looking for you. Then you can alert your security company, you can alert the neighborhood watch, alert the police, etc. So those are all like little things that you can implement without much cost. If there's a situation. Khalil was talking about the gated communities. We primarily operate Robert Sham, this area here. And we are looking into gating this community, but unfortunately at the moment it's not in place. So we have to rely a lot on the human factor. So what we do is we've co-opted other security companies together with ourselves, and we do exactly that. What Khalil was saying, we stand off at a mosque with our flashing lights. Our guys stand outside. We make turns to go into the mosque, etc. But there's movement around the mosque, and that also wards off a lot of the criminal elements. That it plays a big role in the securing of that mosque. A lot of mosques also, they might be in a position to employ a guard, which is also a good thing. they employ a physical security guard to stand outside, in a reflective vest, showing visibility, etc. If he sees something out of place, he can call his supervisor, or he can call the armed response, etc. So those are all types of things that are available, that can be implemented. But look, at the end of the day, anything you do is a deterrent. If the criminal, I'm sorry to say the negative, but if a criminal wants to do the crime, he will, whether there's a policeman standing there or a security or anybody. But I bet you that he's rather going to go to a place where there's no security guard or no patrols, where people are not vigilant. They're rather going to go to those places because they're easier targets.
Yes. Mohammed, I mean, just, while we are on the subject of technology, and perhaps just some of your thoughts, just to add to what Khalid has been saying.
Yeah, I think, with the security industry, it's always evolving. And, we're seeing latest trends in terms of, updated alarm systems, AI technology coming in. It's quite expensive. I would put it out there. Instead of just putting in a conventional CCTV system, you get one now with integrated software like artificial intelligence, which would jump the price up probably around 30 to 40,000 rand in additional costs for a masjid to obviously put that towards a CCTV system. It can be quite hefty. But there is a lot of, different measures in terms of, smart devices and things like that you can install. We've encouraged a lot of masjids, in various areas to install these technological devices where you can receive lillah payments and sadqa payments via QR code instead of a lillah box or a lillah tin is one of the main things that we see getting stolen from masjids. It's being ripped out, things like that. And then when criminals do see that, it becomes like an easy target for them. So it's like small things like this which you can implement as a masjid to obviously deter criminals from coming in, and obviously just creating that unfortunate event where they do come in and rob musallis and things like that. So yeah, it's just also about installing all these various measures that would assist masjids in obviously becoming what can you say, like just removing elements of criminality from its vicinity, and just being a safe haven for all our musallis ultimately at the end of the day.
Yes, and just to bring Imtiaz back into the discussion, and Imtiaz, Mohammed Amin speaks about elements of criminality. And sometimes we don't know that criminal may be amongst us in the mosque. It's somebody who's not a regular musalli. It's somebody who's come into the mosque pretending to be a musalli, just to come to survey, to see what is actually happening, to gather intelligence, for want of a better term. And this is also something that we need to be aware of.
No, absolutely. I think when we're speaking about crime, we got to speak to it in the context by which it comes. Ultimately, like for example, we've started out Operation Close the Gap since yesterday, which speaks to assessing and understanding the issue of vagrancy and homelessness within your area. Are there opportunistic criminals within your area that currently reside there? Are they targeting the masajid in terms of your lillah boxes and in terms of your shoes being stolen and petty theft from the vehicles and those kinds of things? And what we're seeing in and around the Durban area, the entire eThekweni district area, is that there's quite a large movement of people stealing wheel caps and batteries and all of that. Now that's what we consider as petty crime. Now how do we sort that out, and how do we resolve that? That's not an operation done during Ramadan or in particular moments when we feel the need arises, but it has to be a continuous effort from community members in order to resolve these issues. Remember, these things are based on socio-economic issues, and really there's no criminality in people being homeless, if you know what I mean. But do we really want homeless people in our areas? Are they contributing to petty theft and crimes that go unreported? Absolutely. Now, when we speak about the other stuff, which is your hijackings and your house burglaries and your robberies and masjids being held up in their entirety, this is something that we really need to do some intelligence around and see how these things occur. Now, if there is no force multipliers, remember, the South African police is a service and their numbers are limited based on daily needs, not on erratic movements like shutdowns or hijackings or things like that. So there is no responsiveness. There is crime prevention, but crime prevention is one vehicle riding around all day long in different areas. And obviously, criminals are wiser than that particular issue. So with that being said, uh, it's almost um, improper for us to say that we can eradicate crime in its totality, but vigilance and us being out there on the street most of the time in different coordinated platforms, no matter what it is, whether it's through your CPF platform or your neighborhood watch, it's about being vigilant, it's about understanding. But the one thing I'd like to touch on is that the ideology of using WhatsApp is it's all over, and it's basically filled with information that still needs to be filtered. Real-time information is key, communication is key. Communicating firstly with your family at home and letting them know where you're going, what time you'll be back. And if you're not going back, be principled enough to actually give your wife a call or your children a call and say, I'm going to be a little bit late, so that you don't create panic and worry, because we live in uncertain times. We live with crime all over us every single day. And these are the little things that we can do in order to allay fears and try and build these things. But when I speak to communication, it's also important for us to teach our children at home as to what to do. How do we respond to crime? What is it that we need to do at home? Who do we call? Who is your CPF in the area? How do they communicate? Who is the local station commander? Do I have their contact number? How do I get a hold? I mean, I speak to many people all of the time and I ask them, how do you contact SAPS? And they say, no, we'll call the local police station. I'd like to reiterate that the number nationally to call SAPS is 10111. These calls are recorded and you're then given a reference number to follow up on it. So these are the simple things that we need to start relearning. At some point we knew it, but we've forgotten how to communicate. So communication is key in everything, and how you communicate with your community security services is very important. So for example, in our area, we run eThekweni Secure. And at that, there's all the security companies, your ambulance services, your tow trucks, everyone sits on there, and it's self-managed, it's self-controlled. So sometimes we might go in and say we need to put up ANPR cameras at 12,000 Rand a pop, whereas something as simple as a Zello channel on your phone might be able to give you the assistance you need in real time. The difference between an emergency and a non-emergency is anyone in a state of emergency requires assistance to be at their beck and call timeously. And the response time of anybody, whether it's a CPF patroller, whether it's an ambulance, whether it's anyone that you need, to see someone that you can trust in front of you timeously is the most important thing when you've been traumatized by crime. And that's basically what we've understood coming from the space of crime fighting as long as we have.
Shukran for that, Imtiaz. And let's get back to Khalil. Khalil, we know that, during the month of Ramadan, people obviously are at a different level spiritually, but also, and I'm not too sure it's because of the dates of the Kajur, that people tend to become a lot more hot-headed. And in the event, and we make dua, it doesn't happen. But if there is an unfortunate situation taking place in a mosque, and sometimes you do get people, you get the musallis, you get hot-headed people, you get loose cannons within the community that may just react instinctively as well. And this is something, and we need to be watchful of, because not to put your fellow musallis at risk, by your actions. And this is something that we need to also inform ourselves and be aware of and educate ourselves about.
Yeah, most definitely. I think the Musallis should be responsible in the event that there is an incident in a masjid. I mean, let's take the law into our own hands. Let's put it as well. Let SAPS do what they need to do. But obviously, what the first instinct is going to be, you want to protect yourself and you want to protect the people around you. But again, it needs to be done in a responsible manner. So, like I said, let's just be responsible in how we tackle every situation as it comes.
Yes, perhaps Khalid, you'd like to comment on that as well? I see you were
Yeah.
shaking your head.
I was agreeing with the Kajur story. I think people are a lot more hot-headed during Ramadan. Again, I'm not sure why that is, but I was just agreeing with Imtiaz in what he said about the response times. Just to take on both these, these questions that you asked just now. The one about the response times. Yes, the response times are very important, because even if you wait, we've tested this theory so many times. If you are in a panic situation and everything slows down. Everything slows down. I remember when I was much younger, I was involved in a shootout where I was shooting with the criminals across a car, and that whole situation felt like a half an hour. But meanwhile, it was like 10 seconds, and so many times I've seen with our clients, they have a situation and the guys are there within 2 minutes, but the client, they are so stressed out, and that situation has caused them so much trauma. It felt like a half an hour. It felt like that criminal was in their house, was busy there for half an hour. That's because their nerves are so stressed out, and their adrenaline is pumping. Everything's happening at the same time, and it feels like an eternity until somebody can get to them. I think one small thing that I learned many years ago was when you're teaching your kids about 10,111 and how they can remember the number of 10,111 is, if you can see my hand, if I hold my hand up like this, you can see 10111. You can teach your kids to do this when they're in a situation. Do this 10111. 10,111. If they don't remember, don't worry about what's written on my hand. But 10111, 10,111 is the number for the emergency, for the police. That's what you're going to phone when you want to phone the police. Like Imtiaz says, there's no point you trying to get hold of your local police station. There's not always somebody sitting at the police station manning a telephone. I know a lot of police stations have implement a COC, sort of call center type scenario where they take calls and they escalate situations in that. But it's always best, phone the 10,111, get a reference number if you can, if the situation allows you to. But also, if you're in the mosque and something happens in the mosque, that situation can also escalate very quickly. It can go from an argument to people pulling out guns at each other and all kinds of things. So people must just remember, when I became a Muslim, one thing I learned was the word sabr. And we need to just teach people, rather try de-escalate. Try de-escalate the situation. Don't now go and fetch the Kung Fu and the Bruce Lee in the back of your mind and now want to take on whatever that situation is. Try to de-escalate. Speak softly. Be calm. If you calm, the person that is angry will calm down. I guarantee you. I've been in a situation already where the guys had a gun to my head. The one guy told the other guy, shoot him. And I was calm about the situation. I said, hey, just relax. Relax, guys. What do you want? How can I help you? Because they didn't know what they want. They were now all stressed out. The criminal's just as stressed out as you are. And anybody that is hyped up and fearful, and they also, you don't really think. So the best is for you to try and stay calm. I know it's difficult for some. You've got to try and stay calm, try and de-escalate the situation. Rather, give the man your phone. I know some people think their phones and that are their lives. Give the man your phone, at least you got your life. We can always try and track the phone. You can always do backups and things like that. But your life is not worth, fighting that guy, unless unless and from a father's perspective, if I see he's going to hurt my child or kill my child, I might get a little bit more angry. But very often it's better to try and de-escalate. Try and stay calm yourself, and that might save everybody's lives.
Yes, and just to, I know we've already on 8 p.m. and we've got just a few more minutes that we can go, and we'll just go around the panel for the final thoughts. And I see Mohammed Batman Ismail has joined in as well. Mohammed, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, I think Mohammed is battling for some reason or the other. Mohammed, I mean, just, as we head towards closure, and I just want to focus for a few minutes on our women and our children at home. And I know a lot of the discussion has been centered around what happens in the masjid. But for women, and for women to be vigilant, for women to be aware, what should they be thinking about?
Yeah, no, obviously, with the male folk going to the masjids, especially in the early hours of the morning after suhoor and after isha, they're alone at home with the kids. There's obviously a few things that, as a family, I think, before the month of Ramadan sets in, the parents should sit, especially with their kids, just to make them aware of the change in routine. I think we're very set in our ways during the entire year. And then Ramadan comes, and everyone's routines change. Kids go to sleep a bit later. So obviously there's going to be a risk. Criminals know everything. We shouldn't be oblivious to the fact that they don't know, or they're not watching. They know when the husbands or the men of the home are at the masjid, and they know that the women folk are then alone at home. And that is obviously the period, that's most vulnerable, I think, during the month of Ramadan. It's just putting your alarm systems on. That's one measure. Put it on passive, where you can still move around the house. The kids can move around the house and things like that. And then obviously the men can also rest at ease, knowing that their wives and their mothers and things like that are safe. And then obviously just being in touch with the men when they leave. WhatsApp is such a brilliant platform. Just every hour check in, where you can see if your husband is okay. The husband can see if the wife is okay, and things like that. So it's just simple things that we tend to forget about, especially with the month of Ramadan. A lot of people are engaged in ibadat and things like that, but it's just obviously also just making sure that your loved ones are safe. It's simple things, just a random message now and then, just checking up on your family members and things like that. Have a phone call now and then, obviously, if you're living far away also from your close loved ones and things like that. It's small things, I think, at the end of the day, which count. And yeah, I think in closing, just we wish one obviously a safe and blessed month of Ramadan, and keep us all in your du'as, inshallah.
Inshallah, Ameen. And I see Malik Mujib says, very impressive. Jazakallah khairan so much for that. Just going across to Khalid, final thought.
I see my friend Mohammed is here. Mohammed and I go way back. Very good guy.
Absolutely.
Very, very good guy. Used to be my neighbor. But anyway.
Mohammed, I see this Mohammed. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. I just joined in because Imtiaz had to leave the meeting.
Yes,
so I just joined in now.
Yes, okay. Before we get to Khalid and final thoughts from him, Mohammed, I know, you and I have had this discussion last week on Salam Media in terms of preparedness, but also, I know you are extensively involved in engaging with communities, the various forums that you attend, advising communities, addressing them on these matters. And at a time like this, I'm sure, you are extremely busy as well. And also making sure that it's all systems go in terms of preparedness from a safety and security perspective.
Oh, absolutely. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And Khalid, it's really lovely seeing you. As we spoke about it at the show last week, is that we set up an organization, rather our platform is called Ramadan Secure. It's an offshoot of eThekweni Secure. So we've been doing this work for a long time now. And again, like I told you, We don't want the community to live in fear. We want to empower the community to know exactly what they're doing, how they should do things. Open up those communication channels like we discussed the last time. Use your WhatsApp groups effectively. Use your your Zello channels effectively. Sift through the noise, because there's a lot of misinformation that can go out there, and misinformation is dangerous, and it raises the fears of the community. So we must not take this from a point of fear, and we must also know what's the most volatile times. When it's Sehri time, going to the Masjid Fajr, also Iftar time, it's also a high risk time, and then again Taraweeh. So these are the factors that must be identified. We need to tell the community, listen, these are the issues you need to know, and how to then disseminate the information. And what's also important, I think we need to understand, is you need to know who your neighbors are in whichever community, because communities are now diverse. We come from a very diverse community. And like Khalid, I was his neighbor in Robertshire. We came into a community that was once, for the sake of argument, for one population group. And then you're coming from an area like Lenasia, moving into Robertshire, for example, and you're meeting new people. And we don't want cold communities. We need to warm up. So each and every person who lives next to you or across the street from you, you know exactly what is going on. And if there's an emergency, immediately alert somebody and get that kind of responses, and have your neighborhood watch continue running, have your patrollers on alert, whoever's outside the mosque, and these are the factors that can create a safer community. But because remember, we are in numbers and we don't utilize that advantage, because the criminals are few and we are the many. So the many is who must strike at the right time when is needed. And I think that's about as much as we need to get going.
Well, Jazakallah for that. And Khalid, just a final thought from you, but just in also looking at addressing an issue where we've seen recently in Johannesburg, some of the masajids that have been hit. These are, we're talking about communities and those that live in traditional communities where we have our mosques around us. That is one. But then you have mosques that are in like, for instance, in the central city, like in Joburg. Somebody mentioned earlier on about the Nugget Street Mosque. When you look at the Kirk Street Mosque that was hit, there was another mosque. Now, these are in city centers, but I would say high-risk areas, for want of a better term.
Yeah, unfortunately, when it comes to that, they need to try and make a plan to up their security. There's some very good. I know of one security company in particular that's in that area that's very good. They should align themselves with that security company. Maybe, speak to them about implementing a guard there or something. There are resources available. Unfortunately, where they don't have where they don't have a gated, or where they don't have the luxury of the same kind of suburb or the same kind of environment that we live in, it's unfortunately, it's going to cost them some way. They're going to have to implement more security measures to deal with those types of crimes that are happening around them in particular. We have different crimes. Yeah, by our mosque, they steal shoes and they steal, they steal the speakers, and they steal, like petty crimes like that. And again, I say, alhamdulillah, we haven't had a major incident at one of our mosques. But where you've got high risk, you need to address that high risk. And I tell you, one security company that's also very good at assessing risk is our friends here from Vision Tactical. Vision Tactical are also Muslim guys. They are well within their within their scope. They can go there and they can advise those guys on what kind of security to implement there. Look, I'm also, if they want, I'll go there and I'll give them advice. But they're going to have to. You cannot skimp on your security, especially in a high risk environment. You have to have security. You're going to have to either pay, or you're going to have to get people to volunteer to take up those roles. You can't just leave it up to okay, I've got monitoring and response, that's going to take care of it. No, you need to implement more there in that place. And your security doesn't just start. I know I'm going a little bit long now, but it doesn't only start at that building. It doesn't just start there. Your security starts outside in the street. It starts in the neighborhood. So what your neighborhood is doing, what's happening in your street, from where your street is, what kind of boundaries do you have in place? And then only do you come into the building and take care of that security. So they need to look at those kind of layers of security there.
Yes, and Khalil Mohamed, as Khalid mentions, what is important is Ramadan is a month of unity, and it is in the spirit of this month of unity, this month of mercy, that we care. We care for our Muslim brothers and sisters right across the entire world in more ways than one. Whether we look at those that are suffering right across the entire world as a result of wars, occupations, famines, the earthquake, and all of that. And this is all part and parcel. Also, the security aspect of caring for our brothers. And as Khalid mentioned, and also, he mentioned about Muhammad Amin in terms of, assisting other communities that may require assistance by way of advice, by way of guidance, to point them in the right direction so that they also feel safe and secure during this month of Ramadan, Khalid.
Yeah, most definitely. And like I mentioned when we started as well, if we work together as a community, we can get things done. Like I mentioned, we get our non-Muslim patrollers that are always assisting us during Ramadan to do constant patrols around the masjid areas. And I mean, we do the same, when there's auspicious days for the non-Muslims, we as the Muslims go out, the Muslim patrollers will go out and stand off at their various temples and churches and all of that. So yeah, if we do work together, I mean, we can combat this crime.
Jazakallah for that. And Mohammed, I know you came in last, so I'm going to give you the final word. If you could unmute your mic, otherwise we won't be able to hear you.
Okay, sorry. I apologize. What can I say except that there's so many brothers out there doing excellent work, and I want to thank them first, because what they do is a thankless job. Any members from the Community Police Forum, Khalid and I go back a long way, and we've worked a lot in the community, and we don't need the thanks, but I want to place on record my thank you to all those brothers out there who are making the effort to keep their community safe. I just come back from a CPF meeting now, and we were trying to mobilize the business community ahead of the national shutdown and discussing these things. So my brothers, my message is to you, not to the listeners, is to you guys who have done a fantastic job, and keep it up, and may Allah protect you guys from everything and from all the dangers, and keep you guys always safe. That's what I want to say, United.
Ameen. Jazakallah khairan so much for that to Khalid Dennis, Director at SA Rangers, Khalil Mohamed, Lenasia CPF, Mohammed Batman Ismail, eThekweni Secure, and also Mohammed Amin Davelia from Vision Technical. Jazakallah to all of you. Really, I do appreciate it that you've taken time out. This is an important week ahead for all of us as we prepare for the month of Ramadan. Allah accept all your efforts. Allah reward your efforts in protecting the ummah, in protecting the communities around you as well. And we continue making dua that inshallah, as we head into this month of Ramadan, we make dua for our safety, we make dua for security for each and every one of us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from all of you once again, and jazakallah for your time right here on Salam Media. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Well, that brings us to the end of a discussion. And I must say it's a necessary discussion, an important discussion. And yes, as Mohammed Batman Ismail says, taking our heads off. And these are people that have gone the extra mile to keep you and I safe during this month of Ramadan. We acknowledge your efforts. We make dua for you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you the ability to continue with this wonderful work that you are doing. And this is also a huge contribution by way of ibadah in the month of Ramadan, because this is what the month of Ramadan is about. It is a month of unity. It is a month of brotherhood, where we care for each other, where we feel for each other, where we worry about each other, and we make absolutely sure that in more ways than one, we display this universal brotherhood that manifests itself in this month of Ramadan. And with that, I'm going to be signing off. Once again, it's been wonderful being in the company of our listeners, our viewers on Salam Media. From myself and the team, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.